I just want to share a little bit about my father-in-law. He was a visionary, always together with the, inspired by my mother-in-law, leader, community leader. He was the president of the synagogue. He moved the synagogue. He grew the synagogue and inspired the synagogue that it was time to build a new building. And they went to the local bank, Roosevelt Savings Bank, Nostrand Avenue and Avenue U. And they went to apply for a mortgage to build the new synagogue building, and they were rejected. So, this is my father-in-law. He went to every single member in the synagogue and asked them for their account number and a list of their names and the account, and created this huge list. And he went to the bank, and he again asked for a mortgage, and again was declined. And he said, okay, fine. If you don't give the synagogue a mortgage by tomorrow morning, all of these accounts will be withdrawn. The Roosevelt Savings Bank became the mortgage holder for the young Israel of Becker. My father-in-law, in the leadership of the building of the building, felt that it would be a good idea. The community did not have a mikvah. So this was in the years when a mikvah was not yet so popular. And how could he go, even though he was a leader in the synagogue, but convince the board that it's an important thing to have a mikvah? So he came up with a fantastic idea. We need a swimming pool. And everybody said, yes, that would be great. We need a swimming pool for our kids. So the swimming pool was approved. So my father-in-law said, by the way, while we're building the swimming pool, what about building a mikvah? They said, okay. They were the most amazing giving people. One year, I was at my in-laws' house with Esther, and well, how was my mother-in-law asked, how was Rosh Hashanah? Fine. How was the blowing? I said, not so great this year. So she goes to the wall. On the wall, there was a National Council of Young Israel Chauffeur Award, which my father-in-law had received, and this was because of his prominent leadership in International Council of Young Israel. Without batting an eyelash, my mother-in-law went over to the wall, took off the chauffeur, and said, Yisrael, here, you can take this. And I have used that chauffeur, thank God, successfully for years since then. But that's the kind of people that, not just to me, but to everyone, that they were just amazing. This is the environment that Kalman grew up. Dear wife, my brother-in-law Aaron, this was their home. When Kalman was 17 years old, he wanted to go to yeshiva, to Chofetz Chayim yeshiva, and my in-laws were very supportive of it. But people around them said, this time, again, you're dealing with Americans, an American community, the American dream, my son the doctor, my son the lawyer, my son the professional. So Kalman is going not to go to college. He's going to go to Chofetz Chayim yeshiva, not go to college. And people said he's going to become a loafer. He's just going to become a moocher. This is what they said. This was the impression. Of course, my in-laws were not fazed. They felt this was what's right. This is what Kalman wanted. This is what they wanted. And he became the great, amazing Rabbi Kalman Witcher. I met Kalman when I was 17, when I came to Chofetz Yeshiva. He was 21. And he immediately, I felt connected to him immediately. I was very close with Aaron, who was my age, and my peer. Kalman, I became very close with, and he became not only my dear friend, but a mentor and advisor. And with Kalman, we spoke about dreams of outreach, dreams of going somewhere, going out of town, inspiring people, teaching people. This was Kalman then. I also felt it. My first time, one of the first times that I spoke publicly was right around now. Kislev, or Chodesh Kislev, was my yahrzeit for my grandparents, my mother's parents who were killed in the Holocaust. And I was preparing to speak in Young Israel, Jackson Heights, where I grew up. And of course, before I spoke, I ran my speech by Kalman. I remember it even today. I remember his criticism, some of it soft, and some of it not so soft. I remember it very clearly. When Chofetz Yeshiva went to Israel, the whole yeshiva went to Israel in 1967. I'll speak in a few minutes about 1964. But 1967, that's the first time that I went to Israel with the whole Chofetz Yeshiva. Most of the boys went. Kalman did not go because he was dating. And he was looking for a wife. And so he didn't go. Actually, it was 1968. 67 was the year after the Six-Day War. So what happened during that year? During that year, 1968, 1969, Kalman made the winter home in Sheepstead Bay an outreach center. Kalman took boys off the streets and he said, "Come, let's learn. Come, let's study." And those boys today are men with families, with children and grandchildren. Some of them came to the funeral, and they have remained in contact. They remained in contact with Kalman for years and years. One of them actually went to the U of A for a time. And little did I know, I was standing next to Kalman, and I remember there was somebody who came to the yeshiva. His name was Rabbi Rubenstein of blessed memory. He wrote these beautiful books in English about Jewish education. And I'm standing next to Kalman. Little did I know. And he says to me, I got to send some books to someone in Tucson, Arizona. Tucson? Okay. Richard Donowitz, great, dynamic educator. When I started dating, naturally, I went out with a girl, and I went out with a girl, and naturally, what should I do? The next morning, I discussed the date with Kalman. And I told him about the girl, and told him some questions that I had, and Kalman says, "You know what, Yisrael, that girl's not for you. I know someone that would be good for you." So, okay, I said, okay, fine, Kalman, sounds like a good, worthwhile. Fine. So I'll talk to you later. Later, he doesn't talk to me. Towards the end of the day, in the evening, during supper time, I see Kalman yelling on the telephone. Because those days there were telephone booths. And I see him. I said, "Boy, it's crazy. The boy is on the telephone." Okay. I just happened to walk by. I'm in the dining room of the yeshiva. Comes over to me, Kalman, and he says, okay, Yisrael, can you drive me home? Okay, I drive him home. In the car, he talks to me, he says, let me tell you about the girl. My family, parents, and okay, etc. Then he says, I just want to just tell you that it's my sister. So I said, Kalman, if I'll be honored to date your sister, but, in case it doesn't work out, I just on the one condition that we still remain friends. Says, of course, Israel, I wouldn't think it. Otherwise, if I thought if you were that kind, I would. Okay, so you know the story. It worked out. But there's a little bit of a story before that. And the story before that is the following. What happened every year, I used to, from the time I was 17, I would get a job for Rosh Hashanah. I worked 3 days a year. Well, actually, a couple of times it was Pesach also. But when I worked for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, I needed a tallis because I was single, and a single boy does not wear a tallis. In our tradition, when you get married, that's when you start wearing a tallis, and you need a tallis. So I would go every year. Kalman would lend me his weekday tallis. And he would say to me, you could return it to me after Sukkot, because I'm not going to need it, because Sukkot is the holiday of Sukkot, so I'm going to wear my youngest tallis. So after Sukkot, when Yeshiva starts, return it back to me. So one year, in 1972, Kalman says to me, you know what, I need the tallis right after Yom Kippur. Could you bring it to my house? I said, okay, fine. So fine, I bring the tallis to the house, and then I come to the house, and Kalman and Rivka sit me down in the living room, and we're talking, and then afterwards we have tea, and we're talking some more. Fine, I wish them a good evening. I remember what we spoke about. We spoke about the kinds of things that were so dear to Kalman and Rivka. We spoke about love of the Jewish people. We spoke about my job out of town, the kinds of people that I was connecting to, trying to connect to at this particular job. And I spoke about Jackson Heights and different people that I was trying to connect to Jewishly. And so, obviously, I made the test, but I share the story just not only because it's beautiful, and in truth, what it means is that if Kalman and my sister-in-law Rivka, they made the shidduch, they brought me and Esther together, so you could say that, in effect, my children are their children, which you could say. But you could say that about anybody that brings two people together. But with Kalman and Rivka, it was literal. My children are indeed their children. There was so much love that they had for each and every one of my children. And not just surface, but depth love, knowing intimately about their lives and helping to guide them. And my son-in-law in Boca Raton, Florida, blossomed massive accomplishments, very, very much due to his very close connection and inspiration by my brother-in-law Kalman. And my other children also have been so much touched. My daughter Rachel is extremely, extremely close. So we have been glad. My very first adult Talmud class that I gave. Where was it? It was in a synagogue in Queens, 98th Street. It was a very nice group of people. They were professionals. How did I get to teach the class? Because Kalman was going to Buffalo, New York to start a synagogue there, and it was his class. He had formed it, he had organized it, and he needed someone to take over the class. So he asked me if I would do it, and if anybody comes to our Talmud class, the experience started out over there and thanks to Kalman. So, he was a trailblazer, Kalman, and he started a synagogue, an Orthodox synagogue in Buffalo, New York, Young Israel Greater Buffalo. It still exists today.